Hi, Gary. So, in your process of co-producing the future systems, did you encounter any resistance from anyone in the hierarchy of how the system was built previously, and what did you do to overcome any challenges that came along?
It's a good question, and to be honest, I don't think we've had any resistance, because it's such an intuitive thing. Who wouldn't want to tap into the richness of the community and their experience? It's a pretty easy thing to argue.
That's very good news.
But where the resistance comes, right? Where the resistance comes is it's when people think, "Oh, but it's going to take too long," or if they've got the arrogance to think, "I know best." And I've got to admit, I'm probably the biggest resistance, because there are times when I sit there and I think, "Oh man, it's taking too long. I want to get on. No, right, enough of that. We've got to make a decision and move." And you need to continue to challenge yourself. Recognise that that's human, right?
Yeah.
None of us is perfect, but don't let it get in the way. Other people will think it. Other people with roles that are very time bound. We're facing a decision point at the moment where our finance team need to get on with building the financial and economic case, and that's a big job, and they need several months to do it. We know what deadline we're aiming for the submission of our business case, so we're working back from that, and yet we're still co-producing and co-refining our service visions,
which in turn is what you need, and what resource and budget you need.
The building is defined by the services within it. It's not. The services can't be constrained by the building itself, so it has to be in that order. So the way that we've overcome that is you've got to respect the fact that the work's got to be done, and someone's got to do it, and it's not okay to delay them and squeeze them to the back end of the process. It's just as valid. It's got to be done. So it's about negotiating a reasonable time frame for that co-production process to deliver its outcome, recognising that co-production never finishes. So the next question is, how do we build and how do we define flexibility past this point? Because co-production never stops, so there will always be a degree of flexibility, but post this point, this agreed point in time where everybody says, yep, we can get it done by then, the changes that can be made again become somewhat constrained. Still massive scope for change and massive scope for further co-production, enormous scope. But things like the overall size of the building, the stacking of departments so that they are in the right place to interact with each other, those things are really difficult to change. It's not to say that if somebody came up with a superb idea that we wouldn't stop the process and assess the cost and the time needed to redesign that entire part of the building. If it was a big enough benefit to be had, you do it. But it has to be balanced. Now, as long as you've got that level of understanding that the finance team have to do their job, they have to have time to do their job, you don't constrain co-production, and that you're all clear on what can continue to flex post that point, then once again you're removing the barriers and you're getting to the point where there's very little to object to. Very little. It's an intuitive process, and that's why I think that you can sometimes, you need to remind yourself that this is an intuitive process as much as it is a discipline and a theory and a great set of practices. It's also one of the most natural things you'll ever do.
It's working together and combining what we all do best.
And what's not to like, right?
Removing barriers and coming back to being humans again.
Yeah.
Good. Stop it then.